Hello, class, and welcome to Biology 101. This is your first lecture for the semester. And the way we're going to do these lectures is each one will be 10 to 20 minutes, and I'd like you to take notes while I'm doing this lecture. You can stop, pause, take notes as you go. At the end of each lecture, there will be a discussion question that relates to the material in the lecture, or a short article to read that relates to the material in the lecture. So I'd like you to go back into the same Blackboard site and look at that discussion question and respond to it after you've watched this lecture. So today we're starting just with chapter 1 in your book, and as I've explained already, don't focus on the book. The book is just there as a resource if you want it. It's a free ebook online. You don't need the book. You don't ever need to look at the book, but I do reference those chapter numbers as we go through so that if you want to look at the book, you know where to go. But just using my lectures and the notes that you take and the PowerPoint slides that I post will be sufficient for you to do very well in this class. So this is what the book looks like if you choose to use it. More important, I think, on this page is my email. You can always get in touch with me via email, and I check multiple times a day. So you signed up for a biology class, and many of you may have signed up for it because it's required, but maybe you really wanted to learn about biology. But I think before we start the semester, it's good to know, what is biology? What are you actually signing up for here? Biology is the study of living things. So what we're going to focus on this semester is, first, in the very beginning, just what is the chemical and physical basis for life. So we're actually going to start with some chemistry, and then we get to move on to the fun parts of biology. So we're going to look at DNA and how organisms use that genetic information for themselves and also for reproduction, passing on the genetic information. We're going to talk about the diversity of life on Earth and how that diversity evolved. And we're going to look at how organisms interact with one another and their environment. So we're going to start at the very small level, the molecules that make up cells. We're going to study the cell, and then we're going to get to organisms and diversity and genetics and big picture things like climate change at the end of the semester. So if we say we're studying life, I think it's really important to understand, what is life, right? Sometimes life is easy to define. You can look out your window and you know the trees are alive, and you know that the squirrel in the tree is alive, and you know that the rock is not. But how do we know that? And at what point, along this scale of things, is something defined as alive versus not? So there are some things that scientists have decided that all living things share, and you have to kind of check all of these boxes in order to be considered alive. So all living things have DNA as an information storage molecule. All living things are made up of cells. They can respond to stimuli outside of that cell itself. All living things can grow, develop, and reproduce themselves. They all can evolve. So there's adaptation within a cell. There can be mutations, and over time you can see changes. They can all regulate their environment so that within the cell may have a different concentration of molecules than outside of the cell. Or if you have a multicellular organism, right, the organism itself can be different than what's outside the organism in terms of temperature or gradient of molecules, things like that. And all living things use energy to perform work. So your first question and discussion question that I've set for you is to go into Blackboard and read the article that I've linked from Scientific American about viruses and whether viruses can be considered alive. And they share some of these qualities that define life, but they're missing some. And so they're kind of right on that edge of alive or not alive. So I'd like you to read that article and think about it and post your own comments and opinions and ideas in the discussion section. I really want people to feel free in this discussion to, say what your thoughts are. I'm not grading you on right or wrong, and certainly there's a range for some of these questions. But what I'm going to be looking at is just that you thought through it, and then come and check back and respond to your classmates. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do they make an interesting point? So I would like this to become a lively discussion like we might have in a face-to-face class. All right, well, good luck, and I will see you again in our next lecture.